Deep inside Louisiana's state archives, there once existed a courtroom transcript so strange that officials eventually buried it away. The case centered on a woman who, according to every official record, never existed. No census listed her. No church registry mentioned her. No plantation ledger recorded her name. For 24 years, she appeared nowhere in Louisiana's written history. Yet in 1869, 23 witnesses stood in a courtroom and testified about the same woman. They described her face. They described her voice. They described her actions. But there was one thing none of them would say. Her name. Even under oath, witnesses avoided it. They called her the woman. Or simply her. When a judge finally demanded that one witness speak her name aloud, the man looked down at his hands and quietly replied, "I don't believe saying it here would make anyone safer." The trial ended without a verdict. The woman disappeared. And her name disappeared with her. This is the forgotten story of the woman who spent 25 years collecting a debt generations in the making. A stranger arrives. In March of 1845, a wagon rolled onto Magnolia Crest Plantation in Louisiana. Inside sat a woman no one recognized. She wasn't introduced as a guest. She wasn't listed as a worker. And she carried only a few personal belongings. The plantation's chief driver, Solomon Picard, approached the wagon expecting supplies. Instead, he found a woman holding a folded letter. The letter carried the signature of plantation owner Etienne Fontenot. It instructed workers to provide the woman with a small cottage near the kitchen garden and extend every courtesy to her. But there was something strange. The letter never mentioned her name. When Solomon asked what people should call her, she paused for a moment before answering. "Call me whatever is practical." That answer solved nothing. In fact, it only deepened the mystery. The cottage at the edge of the plantation. The woman moved into a small cottage located between the plantation house and the workers' quarters. It was an unusual location. Neither fully inside the plantation's social world nor completely outside it. And almost immediately, people noticed something unusual about her. She had no assigned job. She worked neither in the fields nor in the house. She moved freely around the property. Some mornings she walked the plantation boundaries before sunrise. Other days she spent hours studying herbs and medicinal plants. Sometimes she stood silently watching machinery at the sugar mill. Nobody knew why. Even stranger, she entered the plantation house through the front door. Not the servant's entrance. The front door. As if she belonged there. And somehow, nobody challenged it. The boy who shouldn't have recovered. At the time of her arrival, the Fontenot family's youngest son, Theodore, was chronically ill. For years he had suffered from recurring fevers and weakness. Doctors had failed to help him. His mother had quietly begun preparing herself for the possibility that he would never reach adulthood. Then something changed. Within months of the woman's arrival, Theodore began improving. His fevers became less frequent. His appetite returned. His strength slowly increased. By the following year, the sickly child who had spent most of his life confined indoors was running across the plantation grounds. The doctors couldn't explain it. The family never discussed it publicly. But everyone knew who had been spending time with Theodore. The woman in the cottage. From that moment forward, people began looking at her differently. Some saw a healer. Others saw something they couldn't understand. A reputation grows. As the years passed, her influence quietly expanded. Workers sought her advice. Plantation owners visited her cottage. The Fontenot family relied on her more than anyone realized. Yet she remained difficult to define. She never demanded attention. Never sought recognition. Never explained herself. She simply listened. Observed. And helped where she chose. The plantation's elderly healer refused to discuss her after their first meeting. When pressed for an explanation, she offered only a warning. "That woman knows things she shouldn't know." Nobody understood what that meant. But they remembered it. And over time, fear began growing alongside respect. 20 years of silence. For nearly 2 decades, the arrangement continued. The woman stayed in her cottage. The Fontano family continued visiting her. And nobody spoke openly about why she was there. Then history changed everything. The Civil War swept across the South. Plantations collapsed. The old system disappeared. Freedom arrived. Many people left Magnolia Crest. Others stayed and rebuilt their lives. Yet through all of it, the woman remained. One day Solomon asked why she hadn't left. Her answer was simple. "Because I'm not finished." Nobody knew what she meant. Not yet. The disappearance. In 1866, everything changed. Honorine Fontano, the 16-year-old granddaughter of the plantation owner, vanished. One afternoon she was home. By evening she was gone. Search parties combed the plantation. Workers searched the fields. The river was dragged. Neighbors were questioned. No trace of the girl could be found. Days became weeks. Weeks became months. Rumors spread throughout the parish. Some believed she had run away. Others suspected foul play. But inside Magnolia Crest, another theory began taking shape. A theory involving the woman in the cottage. Honorine's mother openly demanded answers. She wanted to know what connection existed between the mysterious woman and her family's growing misfortunes. For the first time in 20 years, people began asking questions they had long avoided. And those questions would eventually lead to a courtroom. The secret comes out. In 1868, a member of the Fontano family finally broke his silence. Julian Fontano, one of the plantation owner's sons, approached parish authorities with a shocking revelation. According to Julian, the woman had never been brought to Magnolia Crest by his father. She had come there herself. Years earlier, she had approached Julian and explained that his family owed a debt. Not money. Not land. Something far older. Something that stretched back generations. The debt began in Saint-Domingue, the French colony that would later become Haiti. Before the Haitian Revolution, Julian's ancestors had owned enslaved people there. Among them was a woman known for her extraordinary medical knowledge. That woman had been separated from her daughter through a sale. Families were torn apart. Lives were destroyed. Generations suffered because of it. The mysterious woman at Magnolia Crest, Julian revealed, was a descendant of that family. And she had spent decades tracing the history of what had happened. She had come to collect what was owed. Not through violence. Not through revenge. But through patience. Knowledge. And time. The trial. In October of 1869, the case finally reached court. The courtroom filled with spectators. 23 witnesses testified. For 9 days they described the same woman. The same cottage. The same events. Again and again, her story emerged piece by piece. Yet even then, nobody spoke her name. Witnesses avoided it completely. The strangest moment came when Julian explained why Honorine had disappeared. The young woman had discovered hidden documents. Documents proving the existence of agreements between the mysterious woman and the Fontano family. Records showing payments, transfers, and property arrangements accumulated over decades. Frightened by what she found, Honorine ran away. She wasn't kidnapped. She wasn't harmed. She fled because she didn't understand what she had discovered. And because she believed she wasn't supposed to know. For 3 years she lived quietly in New Orleans. Alive the entire time. The final revelation.
As testimony continued, another truth emerged.
The woman had spent 25 years carefully collecting compensation for wrongs committed generations earlier.
The healing she provided was real.
The knowledge she shared was real. The services she offered were genuine. But each act formed part of a larger purpose. She was recovering what history had taken from her family.
One piece at a time. The courtroom fell silent as people finally understood. This wasn't a story about revenge. It was a story about accountability. A debt unpaid for nearly 80 years.
And a woman patient enough to wait for repayment.
The judge's decision.
After reviewing the evidence, the judge reached a surprising conclusion.
No crime had occurred.
The agreements were legal. The property transfers were valid. The charges were dismissed. The woman left the courthouse exactly as she had entered it.
Calm. Silent. Unshaken.
She had achieved what she came for.
And now she was free to leave.
The woman vanishes.
In the spring of 1870, she departed Magnolia Crest.
Just as she had arrived 25 years earlier. With little more than a few belongings.
She didn't say goodbye. She didn't explain where she was going. She simply left.
And vanished from the historical record. No confirmed sighting appeared afterward.
No official document recorded her destination.
No archive preserved her future.
She disappeared into history. The name nobody would speak.
Years later, during the trial transcript's final pages, one witness was again asked to provide her name. The witness was Amos Picard.
He knew it. Everyone knew he knew it. The court waited. Amos looked down at his hands before answering. A name is something people can take from you.
She decided nobody would ever take hers again.
Then he refused to say it.
The judge made a note in the record.
And moved on. That name was never written down. Not in the trial transcript. Not in plantation records. Not in church records. Nowhere.
It vanished with her. Today, only fragments of the case survive.
Hundreds of pages describe the same woman. The same face. The same voice. The same extraordinary life.
Yet not a single surviving document reveals her name.
Perhaps that silence was once a prison.
Or perhaps,
in the end, it became her freedom.
Because after 25 years of collecting a debt owed to her family, she left with the one thing nobody could ever take from her. Her story remained. But her name belonged only to her.
And maybe that's exactly how she wanted it.